Hey guys. Okay. So Dr. Ashley here, and we have been having some issues. Sorry about that. Um, so I'm hoping I was trying to simply just send this link out to people, but of course it will not let me email people because why would it let me do that? So let's see. Let's try this. We're going to post it to some social media and it's going to be okay. The internet is doing weird things. So we'll see if that will help. And I do apologize for how difficult this was, and I wish I had something else to say. The internet, try this link instead. So we are supposed to be mm, so we're supposed to be doing a webinar, and for the last 10 minutes, my computer's been telling me you are not allowed to go live. And I don't know why that is, because clearly I'm live right now. But then the next problem was I tried to send an email to everyone to say, okay, let's try a Zoom meeting instead, or let's try this Google Meet instead. So I created all these meetings. And of course, that did not change anything because I can't email them out because my program will only let me send one thing at a time. So one email a day, evidently. Who knew? So let's see. Yes, we are definitely having technical problems. Let's see. And just a bit trying to kind of tell people who were signed up for the email how to get on because I can't email them without individually finding their email accounts and doing so. So let's see how much I can multitask. And in the meantime, how are you guys? How are things going? I hope you are having a better night than I am because let's be real, this is super awkward, right? So let's see, if you are with me, can you share in the chat? I can see you, Ashley. My meeting is ready. Yay for me. Okay, so what we're gonna try and do is get everybody in the same place. And in order to do that, oops, this is the right Google Meet thing. So in order to do that, we're going to share a Google Meet link. So rising above technical issues. Sorry for how completely uncool and annoying this is. And then, there is one person with me. So can you share in the chat? Did you sign up for the did you sign up for the Rising Above program, or were you just randomly joining because I usually go live this time of day? Dang. Okay, let's see. How do I do this? I really cannot multitask well anymore. I used to be able to do it, but I guess I'm getting old and I can only do one thing at once. So sorry about that. But we're going to get rolling and it's going to be great. So my computer's going to get it together and we're going to go from there. So I got one text message that someone could see me. And I see Cindy on. I see. Can anyone else? Can anyone? Are you guys on the original link, or are you on a different link than we started with? Okay, stop that. My computer is struggling. I am sorry. Okay. So the original link didn't work and you went to my YouTube page. Okay. So I need to send other people to my YouTube page, and that sounds easy enough, except not while I'm doing 15 things at once. So let's see. Okay. So I wish, okay, so Cindy went through the original link. So that's promising because that makes me think that maybe they've just kind of combined each other because they definitely were not working. It definitely wasn't taking me anywhere to start with. So let's just see. I think we'll go ahead and just get started with who we've got. And literally just had someone sign up. Let me see if I can send her the link on Facebook real quick, and then we will get started. So how are you guys doing? If you can, seriously, if you can throw in the chat, where are you joining us from? Where in the country are you? I would love to know where you're coming from. So, studio. Alamogordo, New Mexico. Yes, all my New Mexico people. Let's see. Let me see if I can send this to one more person. Sorry. I have a couple of you guys as friends on Facebook, but then not everybody. So it's easier said than done to invite someone. Where does this go? Copy. So anyway, we are going to be doing a lot of fun things when I can get myself together. And people are going to stop texting me. It's going to be awesome. So what kind of work do you do? If you want to share in the messenger, what do you do? Are you in medicine? Are you in packing? I love it. Chapel Hill, Tennessee. Awesome. All right. Well, at least we've got some good fun. Now, the other thing I worked on for the last hour that I did not succeed on was trying to figure out how to get the PowerPoint that I made visible to you. And so, of course, that did not work even after downloading 3 or 4 different softwares. And I'm not sure if that's part of why the original YouTube link wouldn't load. Um, or I think it's just we're just having bad internet. I keep getting all these messages from the internet company that says we are going to fix it soon, and then the next day they said we didn't fix it. We're going to try again later. All right, so we've got a music teacher and a missionary. I love it. Um, and then let me see if there was anyone else I need to send this to that just signed up. Hang on, sorry, fish. So anyway, we are going to be doing, for the next 3 days, I'm going to fix something and it's going to go a lot smoother, I hope. But we are going to be talking, I'll give you just a little overview of the plan. So we're going to be talking today about mostly just my story, how I kind of rebuilt my medical career. Almost thought I wasn't going to continue in medicine at all, and really was able to, really had to start over, I think, more than once, but was thankful for just um, was thankful for the lessons that I learned, I suppose, from that experience. Let's see. Sorry, I'm clicking on a million things trying to see who else I need to notify about the new location. And now it will let me message things. That sounds easier. So let me message one more person. Sorry, I know I'm being annoying. But I hate to leave anybody out. You know, they signed up for a reason and we want them included. All right. So, oops, message. Come on. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, back to you guys. Live streaming in 2 different places. Okay. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about my story and kind of just how to start dreaming again. And then tomorrow, what we'll be talking about is kind of rising above your past. Like, how do a lot of things get in your way as you're trying to kind of like rebuild your life and start again. So, how do you kind of get your thinking in line with where you're trying to go? Because that's the biggest problem that gets in our way. And then the last thing will be on day 3, we'll be talking about kind of reigniting your spark. So how do you go from burnout to being your best? How do you really like understand and live out being a God anointed person at your workplace? And what kind of things can you expect to see when God allows you to kind of step into your work and see Him do incredible things? Okay, so you guys still with me? Looks like we still got some people, so we'll keep going, and I'll make sure to send this link when we're done to everybody else. I really do apologize for how annoying this was, and sorry. Oops, sorry. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going super old school, and I'm literally just going to hold this up in front of the computer so that you can see the PowerPoint that I created, because technology. So we're doing the Rising Above Masterclass, and let's get started. So just talking a little bit about my story is going to be the start. So if you don't know me, I am a general pediatrician, and I have a lot of weird interests. I think my favorite, or my number one gift, is that I love to learn. And so there's a lot of things that I have done they're kind of in very unrelated fields. So I've done a lot of work with medical missions, took teams kind of all around the world. And I love teaching. I got to do some teaching with the medical students this summer, and also at the church history, and doing a lot of songwriting lately, been kind of working on my music stuff. And then also this marketplace ministry, which basically I think about how religion can enhance your job and kind of how your faith really does define and make you better at the job that you do every day. How can we live out our jobs excellently? So, can you guys hear me okay? Do I need to turn the volume up a little bit? Gosh, I usually do that as well. I'm going to turn it up some just in case. Okay. So, anyway, just some background. You're not going to be able to read any of these words, but maybe you can see some of the pretty pictures. Yay! So, just to go back though, I am, okay, thank you. I am from the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. So, I was actually raised in New Mexico. My mom and I moved out there when I was like 4, and awesome. Thanks, guys. And I just love this picture, so I really wanted to share it with you. Not really because it's important to my life, but because I think I look really cute. So, yes, my roommate told me that you people are either cute as children or as adults. So I guess I've been going downhill from here, but what have you? I think it's a great picture. But anyway, so I'm from the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. My grandparents retired there, and my mom and I moved out there. And so grew up in a really small town. Really got to meet a lot of people from all over the world, which was great. And really wanted to be a doctor since I was a little girl. Even when I was this age, I loved the human body. I loved the way it worked. I thought it was so cool that it could fix itself. And I loved my doctor growing up. She was so great and so thoughtful and knew me so well, it seemed like. So, really wanted to be a doctor. There were some ideas along the way. There were some other things that I kind of wanted to do, but for the most part, I really wanted to be a doctor. So, I actually got into school at Vanderbilt. I worked like a crazy person to get some scholarships and get into a good school. So I actually did college and medical school at Vanderbilt, which was amazing. I just loved this school. And so this is actually my graduation day. And I know I look like I'm young. Honestly, I pretty much look the same as I did on my graduation day, but it has been 15 years. It's been a minute. And just to clarify, I am not Doogie Howser and I'm not Doogie Kamehameha, okay, or whatever the child's name is. There's like a new Doogie Howser if you're from that generation. But either way, I am a lot older than I look. I promise I know what I'm doing and I got this. But anyway, so graduated from Vanderbilt University 2010. It's been a minute. Um, and I remember this day. Now, I look fine. If you zoom in on the graduation picture, I look appropriate. I'm smiling. It's happy. But I didn't feel good this whole weekend, this whole day. And I just thought I had a bad cold. But it kind of started a series of bad events, essentially. So after graduation, hung out with my family a little bit. And then on Monday, I guess, one of the days during the week, I was supposed to go. I was one of the two students chosen to give a big talk. And so I was supposed to, not a big talk, sorry, a big we were chosen to choose the new dean of the school. So there were students and attendings and just everyone from different fields. And part of the idea was it was just an honor and they wanted representation from everywhere. But I ended up getting sick. I literally slept through the appointment that morning. And when I woke up, I knew something was wrong because I'd never slept through anything. I'm not asleep. I've never fallen asleep in class. Like something was wrong. So I went to the hospital and I ended up getting diagnosed with bacterial meningitis and pneumonia. So I was sick, and one of the things that happened, I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, but one of the things I noticed was that they would actually give you medications every day, and they would tell you what medications they were giving you. And so the nurse would hand you the things and be like, this is your, Motrin, this is your Colace, what have you. And so she would be telling me these antibiotics twice, 2 or 3 times a day, depending on the medicine. And I could not remember the name of the medicines that I was on. Right? These are things that I had studied. These are things that I knew well. I had just finished medical school, but I couldn't actually remember 5 minutes later what she'd said. Now, I didn't actually tell anybody this, but I was just a little bit nervous about going to medical school. I mean, about going to residency because of this. I'm like, my brain does not appear to be working at the same speed that it normally is. Oh, hang on just a second. I got a message from someone um, since 7 o'clock. Okay. So Clara, unfortunately, has been waiting on YouTube. Um, so we'll see if we can get her in. Sorry about that. I mean, it didn't really affect you guys, but really affecting her more than anything. But we'll get her set. Okay, so like I said, I got sick. Was having some signs that something was not quite right with my brain. Okay, obviously I was talking to people and up and walking, and so I was very lucky when I got out of the hospital a few weeks later. But what essentially happened was I could not do my job well. I was kind of blacking out, and bad things were happening. So I tried to be the hardworking overachiever that I always am, and but eventually I had to get some help that got me pulled off work for several months. So it'd be great if I could tell you that I just fixed everything and then I got myself back together and here you can buy my book for 19.99 and it'll fix your life too. But that's not really what this seminar is about. That's not really how it went down. And I don't think that there's any one book I could have read that really would have fixed the brain injury that I had and the damage that it did to my confidence and my dreams and my skill. I really had to rebuild a lot of things. And so, what I really want to talk about today is not the like perfect, here's the perfect story of all the great things. I want to talk about the really hard parts. I want to talk about the parts that are not perfect, the parts where life just seems hard. And to be honest with you, we've all been through some really rough stuff over the last couple of years. It's not been easy for most people. I guess a couple of people did well in the stock market initially, but for the most part, most jobs have been affected, most fields have been affected. People are quitting left and right. Nobody knows what to do with themselves. No one knows where to build, what field to stay in, what's going to be around 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Everything just seems really unsettled and everything seems really not worth it. And so, really, I wanted to do this class to kind of help us kind of work through what it's like to rebuild. And first, I think that takes it takes saying to yourself, where I am is not exactly ideal, right? What I had to first say to admit to everybody was I was not normal. I was not in my normal state of mind, and I needed help to get back to being able to do things and do them well. And so I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how difficult the last few years have been on different levels. And there's some things that you come up against in life that you just jump over without a problem. There's some struggles that you just are like, this was difficult, but I'm going to make it through. And you get up and keep going. And there's other things that just they feel like they kind of take you down in a way that you never expected. And that's really what meningitis was like for me. Now, what's funny is my cousin actually had meningitis a couple of years before. And it was completely different for him. He would just picked himself back up and went back to life. And he really was sicker than I was. He had to do like physical therapy and he was out of school for months on end and yet still graduated as normal and returned to normal life. But again, for me, getting meningitis really messed with my pride and it really messed with my confidence, especially as a doctor. And so it really took me out in a way that was more substantial than the injury itself. And that's what we're talking about today. All of those hard things that just get in the way of you being able to do what you want to do in life. So this picture is what I kind of chose as the theme for this entire thing because it's you can see where you're trying to go, but it looks so far away and it looks so impossible from where you currently are. Hey, Natalia, so good to see you. Natalia is actually a friend from Colombia. Well, as she said in the chat, a friend that I met on medical missions trips in Colombia. So great to have you with us tonight, hun. Um, so, um, so here's the deal. I did actually finish my residency, which is great. And I looked back at the end of residency and was like, look, no amount of like hard work and me being smart got me through this. This really was God that got me through all of this difficulty, because I finished residency with no lawsuits filed, no wrongful treatments done in spite of myself, and no patients lost, right? And I knew that wasn't regular, and I knew that wasn't just me. That wasn't just hard work. And that's one thing that I've been praying for years, to see God move and to see God really work in my workplace. And I really got to see that through being sick in an incredible way. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to tell you the ending because it's good to remember that badness doesn't last forever, right? We are going to talk about the middle, where it's hardest to see the end and it's hardest to believe that it's ever going to end. And this is the part where you see how far you are away from the mountaintop and you just feel like you're going to be stuck there forever. But keep in mind, there is an end and there is a goal. And in the middle, I think I got reminded of a couple of things. So I got reminded of the fact that, one, I wasn't alone. Again, I really got just a connection with God and with the Holy Spirit that really helped me through my training on a whole nother level that I had never experienced before. Two, I think I was reminded that just because life does not look perfect does not mean that you're in the wrong place. And that was huge for me. I mean, sometimes we think, oh, this is so difficult. This must be a sign that I need to move on or I need to try something different. But that's one thing I was really reminded of over and over again in residency. And then lastly, just because it's hard doesn't mean God doesn't want you there. If you think of the Bible stories, there's a lot of stories about how people are exactly where God wants them, and the situation just doesn't exactly go smoothly. Right. So tomorrow we're going to talk specifically about the steps of how to climb out of burnout. But today we're going to talk about just the concept of work. And this is what I got. I got connected with a pastor during residency who said he'd love to teach about work and how the general story of the Bible and how it helps us when we're doing our work. And I did not know what he was talking about, but we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to kind of fly through it because what he taught took 6 months. So we're going to do it in 20 minutes, but we can do this. It's going to be great. But just for a second, just want to like check in with you guys. Questions, comments, concerns? Are we doing okay? Everybody ready to keep going? Have I completely lost you all? Everybody bored? Hopefully you're still with me. If you're with me, say in the write in the chat, I'm here, ready to go. You don't have to write all of that, but maybe give me like a thumbs up or something. Okay, and then let me just check while I can if, oh, Clara is still not able to get on that. So give me 5 more seconds. All right, looks like you guys are still theoretically with me. So let me see if I can find another way to share this with her. Let's try from my phone. And all right. You gotta love technology. Like it makes things so easy, but also so difficult at the same time. Like when it's working perfectly, it's like, how can I talk with people all around the world at the same time? But then when it's not working, you feel like you're banging your head against the wall and it's not cool. You know? Okay, so let's keep going. So you're not going to be able to see this. So the first slide is just Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God worked. Okay. It's literally where the story starts in the Bible. And it's so important to keep this in mind because when you look at other cultures, most of the way that they talk about work is very different than the way that Christianity talks about work. So, in the story of other cultures, a lot of times there's a bunch of gods and they're sitting around doing nothing, and then something really bad happens. So they have to get up and they have to go fix it. And that's where work comes into play. And then the goal is to get away from the bad problem and then just go like sit back down and relax. That's how a lot of cultures talk about the idea of work. That the idea is to be able to get out of work as soon as possible because work is a problem. But the Bible doesn't talk about work like that at all. God is doing just fine. He's got everything he needs. And he decides to create, he decides to work out of sheer enjoyment. And so we see it was never meant to be a punishment in the Bible. God saw it as an opportunity. Work was always there, and God delighted in it. He took pride in it. We see the story of him creating all of these different animals, all of these different structures, all of these different water, like dividing water and all these different things, and then saying, it is good, right? Like he creates something, likes what he's done, and then has passed that gift on to us. So the idea was not meant that he would give us work as like a rock for us to carry around or like a heavy burden for us to deal with. The idea was that we were going to be able to further share and develop just like he had, that we were going to be able to create and and go and do incredible things. So the ideal plan we see in Genesis 1:28. So God, it says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea, the birds in the sky, and every living creature that moves. So from the very beginning, the way that God starts all of this is he blesses the people that he creates. He didn't start with like insulting his meaningless slaves, right? He starts with developing a relationship with the people he's talking to and saying, look, I'm going to help you. I'm going to bless you with everything that you need. And then the second thing is he commands them. He says, go be fruitful, fill the earth, rule over things. Like he wants us to take care of the earth and to enjoy it, right? And so we're supposed to emulate him and kind of be caretakers of, oh, hey, yay, Claire, I'm so glad you made it on. Claire from Boston. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we are supposed to emulate him and become substitute caretakers of the world. So the ideal plan is exploration, cultivation, and expansion. Okay, so exploration, we're going to learn more about the world. We're going to learn more about each other. We're going to learn more about creation. God really has put in our hearts to explore. And even though we don't have, as much land to like seafaring exploration or whatever, this is one of the reasons why people want to, go to the moon or whatever. There's something in us that wants to explore. And that's a God given thing because we're fashioned just like him. So, question to ask: how do you view work? What do you guys think of work? Have you ever thought about work like this? Does work seem like a hard thing, or does it seem like a possibility from God? What would you say? Throw it in the chat if you've got any thoughts. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if you guys are throwing something in the chat, I don't see it yet. So I'm going to keep going and we're going to come back to that. But definitely think about it. How do you see work and how do you usually think about it? So first we were meant to explore. Second, we were meant to cultivate. Excuse me. So it's the development of divinely influenced human culture. So the Bible suggests that the world that God created was good, but could be further developed, right? So chocolate, right? If you think of the substance of chocolate, is good in and of itself, right? Milk that comes from cows or whatever, that's good in and of itself. But guys, when you put them together and put some sugar in it and freeze it and get chocolate ice cream, I mean, seriously, how much better is chocolate ice cream than these individual ingredients by itself, right? So here's the deal. God did not create chocolate ice cream. Humans created chocolate ice cream. Humans took the things that God had given them and then put them together in a unique new way. And so we get to experience some whole nother level. We get to experience this cultivation. And God put on someone's heart to develop things like irrigation systems, cities, new technologies, new treatments, all of these different things that we create and that we do in our day-to-day jobs. God put that on someone's heart to do that and to go. And then the last thing would be expansion. That God clearly says in the Bible that we're meant to go to the ends of the earth, that we're meant to cover all of the seas, cover all the land, and that this was not going to be a secret, right? So that we were to share everything that we learned with the rest of the world. Now, what you guys are talking about is that work feels like a chore. Wouldn't it be great if work actually looked like what I just described? But let's be real, it doesn't, right? Like it's hard, it's a chore, it's struggle, you're working crazy hours, you're not represented well, you're not appreciated well, yet really everybody wants to go on vacation and retire, right? Because work is a burden. And even if that wasn't God's original intention, that's what happens. Work literally gets cursed. Okay, so the next step is that in the Garden of Eden, man did not follow all of God's rules. So what happened is there's a consequence, and we see that woman, that Eve, has some consequences for her. Adam and Eve, their relationship is affected, and then instead of Adam getting some kind of like curse or something, the curse is put on all of work. So that means that we have weeds, we have struggles, we have problems, and everything that we do, instead of being like a God given gift, becomes a struggle. So every job that we have, every plan that we have, every work, everything that we do is a lot harder than God intended for it to be. The ideal plan was completely broken and marred. And so the implementation of what we were supposed to do and what we were supposed to do in the world is then not quite as good as it was supposed to be. But here's the deal. This is where God introduces this concept of redemption. And redemption basically means that God has a plan to kind of fix the way that things are going. And so this means that the world was frustrated, but not destroyed, right? The original plan was struggling, but not completely thrown out. And then our relationship with Him was broken, but not impossible, right? And so everything is different and more frustrating than it should be. But God's original plan still kind of lives within us. So we moved forward doing part of what God had said, but not really everything. But God knew that that's how things were going to go. So that was the plan. And so this begins a system of trends. And I'll see if I can get this picture up here for you. So basically, we're going to look at several different stories in the Bible. And what we see is that what happened with Adam and Eve in the garden is very similar to what happens with Abraham in the promised land, is very similar to what happens with the people of Israel in their land of Israel, and is very similar to what God calls the nations to do on earth. Okay, so we won't go through all of this tonight because we don't have time for that. But this is exactly what we were going through over those 6 months. That the Bible has this story that kind of repeats over and over again about how God gives a plan and we try and do it and we don't do it right. But God knows we're not going to do it right. And so He sends someone to help redeem and help fix what was lost. And that's what we see over and over again. So what happens next is that Abraham, Abraham is the new Adam, and the promised land is the new garden. So God gives this set of rules to Abraham, and basically says that they are going to basically all of the rules that they're given in the Garden of Eden, Abraham is given again in a lot more detail. And God talks about how they're going to be blessed, and how there's going to be land for them. They're going to be caring for the land. There's going to be these special plans for offspring. It's going to be a fruitful nation. And then everything that they do, they're going to be able to take and expand and teach to the rest of the world. And it's going to be an everlasting covenant. Nothing's going to mess it up. And so that is like the plan that God gives Abraham. But that's not exactly how it goes down. Abraham kind of makes his own plans, some things happen. And so what we see is the next part of the Bible is not, hey, look, Abraham's family is living in Israel. The next part of the Bible is that the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt. And this, I think, is really interesting because it's a solid 400 years that they're just kind of chilling in Egypt, really struggling, really trying to make sense of why God had promised them something that they don't actually get to see. Okay. So we're going to take a brief second here, and I want you to think about why the biblical stories. Why did I even bother going through all of this? And what on earth am I talking about? What does this have to do with your job and your setback and your struggle, right? Like, whoop did you, Abraham and Israel? Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But let's be real. How does that affect my life, right? Hopefully I have not completely lost you. If any of you tend to sleep at church, this is your sign to wake back up. I am now going to give you the reason for why we're talking about this. And if you're still with me, right, I'm here in the chat, and we're going to keep going. We're focusing in. So here's the deal. So if we talk about Abraham in the Bible, Abraham, every time that the story of Abraham is mentioned, essentially what happens is God said, Abraham, I need you to move. And Abraham moves. And then Abraham, I need you to move. And Abraham moves. And then Abraham, I need you to believe. And Abraham believes, right? Like that is essentially his story. He's got chapters and chapters of the Bible, but that's the story that he gets. Either God tells him to move and he moves, or he is trying to believe for something that God is going to give him. And that's his whole story. But the thing about Israel is it's a lot more complicated than that. Okay, so Israel that's enslaved in Egypt, they know what was promised to Abraham, but they're so far away from living that. They're not being able to, they don't have their own land, they don't have their own freedom. They know what God said, but what they're walking out is really different and really far from what God intended, God's best for them. And this is why I bring back this picture, right? They know the vision. They know the idea. They know where they're trying to go, but it's so far away from where they are right now. It's so far away from what they can see in their actual lives. And that's the kind of, when you're in that kind of situation, it really does make it hard to believe that anything is ever going to change. And so this is the part that I get. This is the part that I think I really relate to. Because I don't know about you guys, but like I really struggled in residency. I gloss over it like, oh, I had a brain injury and then I, had some help and it was fine. But it really was really difficult every day. So part of the problem was I had pneumonia. And so I was short of breath. So I would get up, walk from the parking lot to the hospital. And then by the time I got to the hospital, I was short of breath. So I would sometimes just be standing in front of the elevator, just gasping and just like trying to catch my breath. And then I had this little bit that I would do. People would walk up and I'd be like, oops, I forgot to press the button. But it wasn't that I'd forgotten to press the button. I was literally just trying to catch my breath. Right. And so I was too tired and not ready to go in. And then I'd try to go to whatever service I was on and I'd forget where it was. But this is the same hospital that I was there the day that the Children's Hospital opened. I was there when it was being built. I literally gave tours in the hospital. So the fact that all of a sudden I couldn't remember where to go really hurt my pride. It really hurt my feelings, right? Like the things that I know, I can't even remember. And then I went to speech therapy. I had to get help with the way I was communicating, the way I was thinking about things. That used to terrify me as well because I knew good and well I had referred kids to this same speech therapy place. Kids and adults all went to the exact same building, to the exact same check in, to the exact same location. And so I was terrified that I was going to run into some patient that I had referred for speech therapy and that they were going to say, what are you, like, broken or something? You should not be my doctor. Like, why are you, what's wrong with you? And that they were going to try and fire me. And there was all these different things that were going on. I stopped cooking because I kept leaving the oven on, right? Like I couldn't work out because I kept passing out. Like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't tell jokes because I couldn't get the messaging right. Like everything that I used to know was totally gone. And getting it back was the part that I wasn't sure about. No one's ever sure exactly how long you'll struggle with symptoms of a concussion or symptoms of a brain injury. Like maybe this was just my new life and my new normal. And I think the Israelites kind of felt the same way. Like this is just the way life is. This is just how it has to be. Like the struggle that you're going through, the struggle that they went through, it's hard to believe for more when all you're looking at is pain and something that's struggle and something that's hard. It's hard to believe that God, even if you know everything about him, really does care about you or really is going to like change your life at all. It's hard to believe that it's not going to be like that forever. And if you're in a similar place, I think the hardest thing to remember is what was your original vision, right? What was the win? What were you working toward to begin with? What was your promised land? What was it that you wanted from your life? And have you let it go because of how difficult the circumstances are? Have you let it go because there's a bunch of obstacles in the way? Have you completely let it go because God said to, or because your circumstances are just in the way and are clouding your vision? And this is why I think the story of Israel in Egypt, Israel getting out of Egypt and going to the promised land, I think it's so amazing. And I think it's so inspiring because for Israel, they didn't just need help. Like they didn't just need to move to a new place, right? They've got a lot of problems going on. They don't just need to move locations. Their guys that are in charge are going to come get them and bring them back and say, hello, you're our slaves. You do what we say. You can't just go away when you want to. Also, they don't just need forgiveness for their sin, right? They're not like Adam. They don't just need to be forgiven for something they did wrong. Like they didn't actually, they're not in slavery because they did something wrong. This is just kind of how things have gone over the years. And so they've got all of these problems that they really need help with. And it's multifocal. Now, let's see how well we can get you guys to see this. So they've got social problems. They need help with getting through, needing their oppressor taken down, right? They've got economic problems. It's not like they've got a 401k or a savings account hidden out somewhere that they can just go reference whenever they get to the promised land, right? Like they don't have a plan for how they're going to get through this. Politically, they need to change the way that they think about leadership, the way that they think about land, right? Like, if God is going to give them their own land, are they going to run it like the slave holders have? It's not like they've seen it done well. It's not like they've seen good leadership or good government over the last 400 years, right? They need a new definition of normal. Like people that are slaves do not have a good definition of work hours. They don't have a good definition of eating recommendations, right? Like they just don't, they need a new normal. They know desperation and survival, and they need to learn how to thrive, right? They need mental freedom, right? They feel hated and worthless. They need a new definition of self-worth. They need religious freedom. They need to they don't need the Egyptian polytheism that they're living in. They need a new definition of who God is, because as far as they're concerned, he's just, the silent old man sitting up in heaven, ignoring them. And they need a new definition of who God is and what he's capable of in their lives. And then they just need healing, right? They need physical, mental healing. They need rest. They need a new definition of normal for their life. And I mean, doesn't this just feel familiar, right? Like, doesn't it feel like something that we've been through as a society, as a world right now? Doesn't that feel like something that would be great for all of us? Just a rest and a reset and a complete overhaul on every level. Because let's be real, no one thing is going to fix it. So the Israelites are a complete, legit mess. They don't know how to do anything right. They barely know how to operate as slaves. And as great as it would be if God just gave them their freedom and said, "Here, go create the land of Israel," they don't know how to do that. You can't put slaves in charge of a kingdom. You can't God just can't give them the original mandate and say, look, here, go figure it out and go live correctly and do it on your own and get it right. Like, they barely know how to survive. Like, they don't know how to do all of the things that God said, how to walk out his promises, how to live their lives, how to live their work life well, how to do anything right. And I relate to this so much, you guys, like watching the news lately, like it just makes me wonder, like, can anything be fixed? Like, what are our options? Like, I don't know how to fix the financial blunders. I don't know how to make people stop quitting and stay put. I don't know how to make the arguing and the anger and the bickering stops. I don't know how to fix the healthcare system that has been failing for decades. I don't know. I don't have these answers. And it, again, gets overwhelming. It becomes all that you can see. And even if I realize that God loves redemption and he like has all these abilities and powers, and I like see this vision of like God has the creation mandate and he cares about us and he loves work, so let's go change things. Even if I get that vision, how I get there from here, it seems like something that's just impossible, and I mean, maybe not really worth it. And what we see is because the only way that you can really do this, you can really walk out of slavery, you can walk out of your pain and walk out of everything you've been living on, is to do it with God by your side, right? What we see him do is show them a completely new way to live. And God doesn't just leave them in their confusion and their mistrust, right? He doesn't just let that slide and assume that they'll figure it out on their own. What I love is God does not just hand them a wad of cash and say, okay, here, go like buy your freedom and get yourself together, right? He does not give them like a new way of thinking about government that is going to fix every little problem or what have you. And I also love that he doesn't just show up and say, congratulations, your sins are forgiven. Because as crucial as it is that we know that, that's not what they need right now. They don't just need their sins forgiven, they need literal help. And that's what we see God do. We see God literally step into every single problem that they're having, every social problem, every blunder, every mental disorder, every fear. He literally goes into the mess and comes out saying, look, I am God. I am over all of these problems that you've experienced. I know how to fix food, desert, Red Sea, like people die. Like, I am not afraid of any of it. I can take care of all of it. And we see him walk with them step by step to show them a level of shalom and completeness and wholeness and peace that no one's ever seen before. And I love that because, to be fair, no one's needed it before, right? Like, Abraham didn't need that level of help. Like, he just was just moving around. Adam didn't need that level of help. He was living in perfection. But guys, we get that. Like, we are living in a very similar place where we need God to intervene on every level, on social levels, on political levels, in our healthcare system, in our banking system. Like, we need God to really inject some truth and some life and some help on every single level. And that's why I just love this story, because it reminds us that God is capable of doing that God wants to do that, and that God is not afraid of the little details that seem so overwhelming and so unfixable and so impossible to us. Like, no matter what it is that we're struggling with, God is bigger, God is better, and He has a total plan of redemption for the entire world. And it reminds me that He cares about every single step. And not only is He going to come in like the savior and, like, get rid of all of the devils and get rid of all of the oppression, He also comes in as a cloud that kind of just keeps them shaded in the middle of the desert, that walks with them, that shows them where to go. He comes in as fire that keeps them warm, that gives them light, that gives them protection, that gives them someone to be with. And that is what God promises to each and every one of us. So, what that means for us is that my job doesn't necessarily hinge on me being able to look perfect, right? It doesn't hinge on whether or not I said everything correctly. It doesn't hinge on how well the technology worked, right? It doesn't hinge on the things that I put pressure on far too often. Um, it's that God has given us the ability to walk. God walks with us and is able to do every single job. And He puts on our hearts something specific. On each one of us, He kind of writes a dream, He writes a goal, He writes abilities and things that kind of move our hearts more than they would move others. And He helps us to walk those out. So I love that thing. And what I want to close with tonight, we won't end right this second, but what that means is, again, one, we are not alone. God is walking with us through everything. And then two, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean God isn't with us. It doesn't mean that God hasn't blessed us. It doesn't mean that God doesn't care. He is still with us. And God is bigger than our biggest obstacle. So, where I want us to stop tonight is to really go back to vision. What was your original vision? And I'm going to send out a little bit of homework in a bit. I'll send out the link for this live stream as well, so you can watch it again later if we missed parts of it. But what I want you to think about is, what is it that God called you to? What is it that God put on your heart? What was the vision that you had before things got hard, before things got blocked, before obstacles got in the way, before the setback, before the pain? What was the goal, right? What was your promised land? What did God promise that maybe hasn't been delivered yet, but something that He laid on your heart that you still want to believe for, even if you're a little bit afraid to do so? So, step one, again, you guys have got homework. I don't know if I said that, but so step one is to just sit and dream. Just take 5-10 minutes and just write down what you see, what you think of, what you wanted. Don't worry about whether or not it's from God or whether or not it's going to happen or anything like that. Just describe, what would you like your life to look like 20 years from now? What would you want to be doing as you fulfill your mission? How would you want to be known? And then the second thing would be to just make a list of goals. What are some big picture goals that you have over the next 5 years? What are some things that are on your heart that you want to work with God on? What are some things that are in your family that you want to pray and believe for? What are some things that are important? And even if it's hard for you to kind of write these down, if you're in a place like I was, like during my intern year, I had a really hard time with stuff like this. It would usually end with me just like crying on the floor, like, I don't know, I don't believe anything, I can't imagine. So I really had to just make a shorter goal. I had to like make a vision for like the year And the vision was like, I'm going to go to dinner with friends once a month, right? I'm going to continue to play keys at my church, right? Like it was very small goals. But what are the things that are on your heart that God has given you, that God has gifted you for, that still matter? Even if they're not in your life in the way that you want right now, what are the things that matter the most? Just sit and dream and imagine what makes you happy. Okay? So that's going to be your homework. Again, I am sorry for the struggle that all of this was. At this point, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, um, any thoughts for tonight? Like I said, tomorrow we're going to be coming back and talking about specific things. When you've had a setback, what are the specific steps that you can take? What are the practical steps that you can take to kind of get through it and move on? So that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow night. I will possibly make a new plan other than YouTube, but I will let you know that before it happens, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay. Um, any other? Okay. Thanks so much for the word. Yes, you are welcome. Um, so, like I said, your homework is to make sure you are dreaming and thinking about your vision. And then hopefully, I'll see you again tomorrow night. We will get a good plan going so we can not only see the videos and not only see the PowerPoint, but also get everything going. Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for your guys' encouragement in spite of the craziness that this was. So, all right, guys. Well, feel free to shoot me any text or emails if you have any other thoughts. And I will plan to see you tomorrow night. Okay. All right. Have a good one.